So this video will deal with estimated taxes. This is about the third run I've had at this. It's just, I've had a hard time figuring out how best to explain it. Um, it doesn't lend itself easily. So hopefully this will make sense because we're going to take a look both at the TurboTax piece, the budgetary check book balancing piece, and then also the how you actually go out and tell the state of Minnesota and the federal government, here's the amount we owe you, so please withdraw this from our funds. Starting here in the outline, we do not do any tax withholding, so everything is done via this estimated process. And as I say, because of that, the estimated taxes are really as important as figuring out the taxes owed. And that step is intertwined with, as I said, the budget checkbook balancing. Now, you'll notice over here in TurboTax, I created a second TurboTax file. This is the one that we worked on that I worked on that has been filed for tax year 2020. This is, I call it a forward planning document, mainly to calculate the estimated amounts. Now, to create a copy, you just have to go into that folder where TurboTax, the file lives, and it's this guy right here. And you can't see my mouse, I'm just doing a right mouse copy. You could do a paste, I'm not going to do that because there's already one out there. And then I just rename it as forward planning. And then when you open up TurboTax, that's what you'll see here. And let's go ahead and do that right now. And going back to the outline, you'll see that it is a copy, naturally, but I've gone ahead and done a couple of things here. It will contain all of the relevant data from the forms, except I've deliberately ripped out the estimated amounts because those are the amounts we paid in 2020 for that tax year. So it's like we got to clean that slate. Now, having said that, the income amounts can also be adjusted up or down. And I don't honestly remember if I did that for going forward. Like for instance, you know the Social Security is going to go up a little bit. You know you're going to get a little bump on public employees and teacher retirement and that stuff. But it's not very much. So I think I fudged it upward a little bit that we needed to pay a little more than exactly what you'll see here. And I should know this is an important point. These estimated payments can be adjusted in the future if something impacting the tax picture occurs. For example, if we were to change the parable fidelity draw, in other words, we draw down less on a monthly basis or semi-monthly basis actually than originally forecast. Because if we're drawing less, then it means we have less income, which also means that our taxes are lower. And it becomes kind of a circular sort of thing that gets a little tricky to plan for, although again, we're not looking for scientific tolerances. And in fact, at some point this year, 2021, I am going to want to go out and probably adjust the estimated amount because I have already, beginning in, I think it was the middle of March, maybe it was the 1st of April, I actually did draw down the amount we're withdrawing, mainly because the stimulus payments are filling in a gap that I therefore don't need that little piece of the money coming from Parable. So let's go ahead and I don't need to spend a lot of time on this because you've seen all these screens on earlier on when we were looking at doing the taxes, but I will open up federal taxes here. You can see wages and income. I just brought everything over as is, and then, however, made a few adjustments. So for example, like down here, I estimated that the amount we're going to need for Thrivent, or from Thrivent Parable, I still keep wanting to call them, is going to come down. Social Security is going to go up a little bit. This business income, I probably should go back and revise that because I don't think it's going to be that much of a loss because it's not going to be that much of an earning either. And then you could look at deductions and credits. And remember, the software is smart enough to know whether we're going to be able to do itemized deductions or just go with the standard deduction. So even though I put in the mortgage interest here and the property taxes, which believe it or not actually went down for the next year. And down here, I'm cutting charity way back. And that's partly because I did a lot of stuff for Bethel last year still, which probably won't be in the mix this year. A few other things. And then way down here, medical expenses. I think this number is high, and I'd probably have to go back and see where I was coming from on that. But the sum of it is we're only going to do the standard deduction. So that's really what's, for the most part, in this whole column of deductions and credits isn't terribly important. The one that is important is the estimated payments here. Not particularly well labeled, I would say, but you'll notice that this was the estimated amount from prior tax year. And then I could change that then federal estimated and state estimated. And you'll see that I zeroed them all out deliberately, and come back to that in a moment. And they set it up here that you could put these amounts in, but really putting them in here doesn't do anything. It's just kind of for your information, because where it is affected, if you will, is when you actually put it out on the federal or state site. And notice, by the way, they actually made an error in that date. It's not due on December the 31st of the current year. It's due on January the 15th of the next year. And in fact, I think next year it's January the 18th, I think, because of the coincidence with Martin Luther King's birthday holiday. If I were to go back and look at the state, you'll see the same thing. So state estimated is also zero. So you say, well, then how do I know what the amounts are going to be for this estimated? Well, all you got to do is look up top, because essentially we made a copy of what was filed for 2020, previous year. I might have massaged numbers a little bit, took out the estimated amount, and that leaves me then, they're saying it's like if we had paid no estimated tax, this is what is due. So these then become the numbers we're going to proceed with. And you'll notice that we pay them on a quarterly basis. So you take each of these, divide them by 4, and that becomes the quarterly amount. And I go ahead and also, first of all, before or after, it doesn't really matter the order, but I take that and I actually enter it into that same worksheet mentioned in the other video as amounts that will appear in the bank and budgeting reconciliation here. And so you can see there's references to Treasury Department, State of Minnesota. Now, just to clarify, these first two are really the estimated paying for the prior tax year. In other words, even though we're paying that last quarterly amount in January of 2021, it's really reaching back to pay the last quarter of 2020. Then these two amounts are not estimated. These are the taxes that are due. Turns out we were just a little bit in the hole for the state and the federal this current year. Whereas now down here, this is where the cycle of quarters appears for the estimated for 2021. And these are just taking the amounts that we saw in that previous TurboTax, dividing by 4, and plugging those amounts in. And those then become placeholders. And I looked at, I took the dates, as I can't remember if I put them in this spreadsheet first or I put them on the federal and state sites, doesn't matter. Just bear in mind that chances are the dates will not change, but the amounts might. So again, as I said, if we are drawing less from Thrivent, then I could probably lower these amounts. And again, you have to figure out, because you're lowering your income, but you lower your income, you're also then, you don't have to take as much out from Parable for tax. So it's kind of I was going to say vicious circle. That's not really the right term, but they kind of feed off each other. So without belaboring that further, that's basically the way you come up with these amounts. And they're a swag at best. Clearly, as we go through the year, by the time we're hitting, when that last amount would be due, we would know if we were going to be hugely in the hole or hugely overpaying. Because I said in one of the other videos, you really want to come in pretty close to what it's going to be, if anything, owe a little bit. So at this point, let's go out and finish the job, which is posting the amounts that we want the governmental entities to uh, withhold or withdraw from our checking account. So the navigation, we'll do the federal first because that's frankly the simpler of the two. So we navigate bookmarks, favorites, I give you the whole navigation here. Finance, insurance, blah, blah, blah. EFTPS. And you see this rather sort of dense narrative. Let's say that we are going to make a payment. So I'll start over on make a payment. And you'll see it comes in here with, again, this is a website designed by government, so it's not going to be either pretty or intuitive, but we are individuals. So this is what we're going to fill in. We're not a business. So I put in, as it says here, my social security number, a PIN that they've assigned, and a password that I assigned. And then log in. Probably should have put that up there. And we will follow then that we want down here the tax form. It's the 1040 US individual income. And then down here, again, this is why it's not intuitive. They give you a bunch of choices, but none of them are the one we want. So just click on next. And then at the very top, that's where it shows estimated 1040 ES, 1040 estimated. And you'll see here that it gives you a bunch of choices here. It's assuming that you would probably be doing this now for the whole year, like I did back in January. So they're smart in that sense that they give you these 4 different choices. So it isn't real important that I know the exact amount. Let's try, I'll take 2065. It's coming up in the memory or the cache here. So we'll just let that go. Tax year is 2021. That's coming up in cash also. Now the payment date, I'm going to adjust that rather than the 15th. Let's make it like May 1st. And the reason I'm doing that, just for purposes of demonstration, is I think it may give me an error message saying, hey, stupid, you're making 2 payments on the same date. Now, if I were in real life doing this, I'd put in 2065 for tax year 2021, and it would be for April the 15th, down here June the 15th, down here September the 15th, and then down here January the 15th of 2022, or January 18th if they've, as I read, they've adjusted it. And we go to next. And okay, so that's a good error that they said it's got to be on a business day. Okay. So you can look it up, make it so it's saying, yeah, okay, that's fine. So let's make it the 3rd. And I can then do a next, verify everything that's out there. And notice, by the way, it's checking the checking account number as well as the routing number for US Bank. And that's all under the My Profile area, as I mentioned right here. So chances are we're never going to leave US Bank. If for some reason we did or got a different checking account number, you'd have to want to go ahead and change that. So at this point, we'll go ahead and make the payment. And says thank you. Remember to file all returns when due, blah, blah, blah. And if you heard in the background of my microphone, notice that they do send you a confirmation email. And that's a good thing. Okay, so we've set it up. Now, remember how I said that you may at some point in the year have to change the withholding, or the estimated payment. You don't want to pay as much because maybe your Thrivent Parable draw is less. And the way you do it, you don't change it. You have to go through 2 steps. You have to cancel the old payment and then enter a new one. Now, because of this one that I set up was a dummy here for this one for May the 3rd of 2021. So I'm going to cancel it, but I don't have to enter a new one because it was a dummy transaction in the first place. So you can go up to cancel the tax payment and just find the one that you entered here. And remember there, or if you notice there's a initiation date, that's the date that I did the data entry, so to speak. And as you can see here, for the real ones, I did them all on January the 21st. Whereas the dummy I did just now on April the 9th. Whoops, like so. So that's the one we're going to get rid of. So I can just click on the cancel it, cancel payment. Okay, so there is the cancellation confirmation online, and I think they just sent me an email as well saying the same thing. So that's good. And by the way, you can see each of these has a confirmation number as well if you wanted to look it up that way. But again, there's only 4 of them out there. If you wanted to print it out, you could. I don't, because I figure I can always go out to the site and look for it. And if I look out at the email, they've also sent me now another email transaction confirming the cancellation. So that's the federal process. And now let's tackle the state. I should mention the state website is a good example of the fact that as you look at, say, the state being the example I want to highlight, websites will change over time. The look and feel of this website has been really reorganized just in the last 3 months. So it's a caution in terms of, a year or 2 or 4 from now, it could have a different look and feel, and the navigation may be different, and all you can do is just, get in and hack away on it and maybe make a mistake or 2, but trust that you'll get there. So anyway, following the navigation here, Minnesota estimated taxes, bookmarks, favorites, we saw this same drill down in the other video, Minnesota estimated. And you'll see there is as I note here, pay through our e-services, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we're going to go ahead and hit. Now, the state does, like the federal, allow you to do it, to enter multiple payments. In other words, just you can again go out through the total next tax year, and I have done that. We're just going to, however, enter one and then we'll delete it, exactly like we did with the federal. However, the way you look up a state record after you've entered it is different, completely different from the federal. So I will illustrate that as well. So here, we'll just follow the steps. Starting here, select payment option. Are you using a letter ID to make your payment? No, that's only for businesses. And I have to not only click there, but they have this annoying step. You have to click next. Am I a business or an individual? Well, I'm an individual. And then you'll see here, what is the tax type? So I can pull that drill down, and it is individual income tax. And I can put in, first off, my Social Security, and it will parse that accordingly. But then notice it's also going to ask for the other person's. And it's smart enough here to pull up my email because they tested this once before running the video here. And I always use mine, obviously. So next, type of payment. Well, it's going to be an estimate, estimated payments. And this is, you got to think about this for a minute, but it's for the filing period for the payment. What they really ought to say is filing period end date for payment. Anyway, what they're saying is just basically it's December 3rd of 2021. So it's for this current year. You see there are other past years, but by default it's coming up correctly. So then on to next. Do you want to make multiple payments? Now, if I were doing this after having completed TurboTax and hadn't yet plugged in these estimated payments, I would say yes, because I'd want to put in all 4 payments for 2021. But we're going to skip by that because they're already out there. So I'll say no, I'm just going to make 1. And I have to click next. I keep forgetting that every time. All right. The bank information, they say, is this from a foreign bank? No, it's not. And then we'll say, what's the payment amount? I don't remember what it was. Let's just pick a dummy amount here. Doesn't matter for this purpose. It is checking. We're going to pick up the routing number, which I have off screen here, and you can copy and paste that in. And it's smart enough to pick up US Bank. There's a lookup there. And then they want the account number of the checking account. And I can paste that in, which is fine. And then I should be able to paste it in here, except they don't let you. So I have to type the goddamn thing in on my own. Again, why people, well, don't get me going. 8244-9508. Okay, then next. And this is kind of a summary sheet here. Take a look at it. Does it all look okay? Anything out of line? Because you can always never use on a website. It's always a dangerous thing to do backup here. Rather follow their instructions if you need it to back up. But this looks good. So we'll go ahead and do submit. And the payment has been submitted. It tells us when here. We could even put it in a printer-friendly format and print out a copy if we wanted, or say, no, we don't need to do that. And the state will also send out an email here confirming that we've received it. And what's important is on the state, unlike the Fed, is this, excuse me, because I did it twice here as a test, is to pick up this confirmation number, which is this, somewhat inscrutable multi-digit, because I'm going to copy that, right mouse copy, because we're going to need that in a moment to cancel it. So with that being complete, let's go out now and look at what's out there and also then delete it. So we'll go back to online services, and this is all, to my way of looking at it, a little bit cluttered as a web page, but you want to view or cancel a payment or a return. So I can look at what's out there, but I remember I copied that confirmation number, and then I have to put in the email address as well. So I can look at what I set up, and there it is. $700. I guess I just accepted the default date on the federal week. I changed it to, what was it, May the 3rd, but here I just accepted the default date. So that's actually something to be careful of, because if you're entering it in January, you don't want to take that as the default date. So then in this case, I want to, as it says here, cancel this payment. And actually this is a pretty simple step. So you just say yes, the request has been withdrawn, okay. And if we wait a minute or two, we should then get another email showing that payment withdrawn, and that's exactly right. The thing to be aware of is I don't know if there's a way to look at all 4 payments at once. I think you have to just do them one at a time with that confirmation number. You can argue it could be friendlier, but again, you're going to do this once and then maybe revisit it at the end of the year. So anyway, that's a wrap for estimated tax payments, federal and state.